Good afternoon, everyone. This is Panganuri Ajay Kumar, and my topic for today is respiratory physiology. Introduction to lung volumes and capacities. Lung volumes and capacities are often essential concepts in understanding respiratory physiology. They provide the amount of air that can be inhaled, exhaled, and retained within the lungs. Understanding these parameters in a crucial assessing respiratory health, diagnosing lung diseases, and monitoring the effectiveness of respiratory therapies. These measurements help us to quantify how efficiently our lungs function, providing valuable insights into the overall health of a respiratory system. Tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume. Tidal volume or TV represents the amount of air inhaled or exhaled during normal quiet breathing. It's the volume of air exchange with each breath and typically ranges from 500 to 700 ml in healthy adults. Inspiratory reserve volume. Inspiratory reserve volume is additional volume of air that can be forcefully inhaled after a normal inspiration. It reflects the reserve capacity of the lungs beyond the normal tidal volume and is typically around 3000 ml. Expiratory reserve volume. Expiratory reserve volume represents the amount of air that can be forcibly exhaled after a normal expiration. It's the reserve volume of air that can be exhaled beyond the normal tidal volume, typically around 1200 ml. Residual volume, vital capacity, and total lung capacity. Residual volume is the amount of air remaining in the lungs after maximal exhalation. The value typically ranges 1200 ml. Vital capacity, total volume of air that can be exhaled after maximal inhalation. That is, vital capacity is equal to total tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume plus expiratory reserve volume. That is 4800 ml. Total lung capacity is the total volume of air that the lung can hold. That is, TLC is equal to vital capacity plus reserve volume. That is 6000 ml. Mechanics of breathing, muscle of respiration. Inspiration, during the inspiration, the diaphragm contracts, flattening and descending, increasing the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity. Simultaneously, the external intercostal muscles contract the pulling the ribs upwards and outwards, expanding the lateral and anterior posterior dimensions. These coordinated actions increase the volume of the thoracic cavity, creating a negative pressure gradient that draws air into the lungs. Expiration. During expiration, under normal quiet breathing, is a passive process as the diaphragm relaxes. It ascends, decreasing the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity. The external intercostal muscles also relax, allowing the ribs to retain to their resting position. This decreases the thoracic volume, increases the pressure inside the lungs, forcing out the air. Forced expiration. During forceful expiration, the internal intercostal muscles contract, pulling the drips downwards and inwards, further decreasing the thoracic volume. Additionally, the abdominal muscles contract during the pushing the diaphragm upwards. These actions significantly increase the pressure gradient, facilitating a rapid and forceful exhalation. Compliance and airway resistance. Lung compliance refers to ease with the lungs expand in response to the pressure changes. A highly compliant lungs expands easily, while a low compliance lungs greater pressure changes to achieve similar expansions. Factors influencing compliance include lung tissue elasticity, surface tension within the alveoli, and the presence of disease. Airway resistance. Airway resistance is the opposition to the airflow within the respiratory tract. It is determined by the factors such as airway diameter, airway length, and the viscosity of air. Bronchoconstriction caused by factors like allergens or irritants increases the air resistance, making it harder to breathe. Gas exchange or diffusion of gases, pressure gradients. Gas exchange occurs due to the difference in the partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the alveoli and the pulmonary capillaries. Oxygen has higher partial pressure in the alveoli, driving diffusion into the blood. Conversely, carbon dioxide has higher partial pressure in the blood, leading to diffusion into alveoli. Diffusion across the membrane. The exchange of gases occur across the thin respiratory membrane composed of alveolar epithelium, the capillary endothelium, and their shared basement membrane. The thinness of the membrane facilitates efficient diffusion of gases, enabling rapid exchange between air and the blood. Partial pressure differences. The partial pressure differences between gases in the alveoli and the pulmonary capillaries are maintained by continuous ventilation and blood flow. This ensures a continuous supply of oxygen to the blood and removal of carbon dioxide from the body. Oxygen transport, hemoglobin and oxyhemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein found in the red blood cells of primary is the primary carrier of oxygen in the blood. It has highly affinity for oxygen, binding it readily in the lungs where oxygen partial pressure is high. The binding oxygen hemoglobin forms hemoglobin, oxyhemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin is the oxygenated form of hemoglobin transporting oxygen throughout the circulatory system. It releases oxygen into the tissues with lower oxygen partial pressure, where oxygen is needed to cellular metabolism. Oxygen saturation. Oxygen saturation refers to the percentage of hemoglobin molecules that are bound to the oxygen. The value is used to assess how efficiently oxygen is being transported in the blood. A normal hemoglobin saturation is above 95. CO2 transport, bicarbonate, and carbonic acid. Carbon dioxide diffusion. Carbon dioxide diffuses from the blood into the alveoli due to the higher partial pressure of CO2 in the blood. It travels through the circulatory system dissolved in the plasma bound to hemoglobin or as bicarbonate ions. CO2 exhalation. In the lungs, the reverse process occurs. Bicarbonate ions are converted back to the carbonic acid, which then dissociates into CO2 and water. The CO2 diffuses into alveoli and exhaled. Bicarbonate formation. In red blood cells, CO2 reacts with the water to form carbonic acid. Carbonic acid quickly dissociates into bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ions. Bicarbonate ions are primarily form of CO2 transport in the blood. Thank you.